It's so good to know you're there, tuned in to your favorite tech show on television, where we look at issues, trends, developments in the global ICT industry. And of course, we play hosts to tech CEOs, experts, innovators, professionals, and of course, big thinkers. Today promises to be very exciting, informative, and educative as always. Stay with us.
From Nigeria receives the first prize in the AISI TV category for his program, ICT Africa, the Tech Nations.
ICT Reporter of the Year Electronic, Pedro Aganbi.
In case you've just joined us, you're all watching Africa's numero uno tech show on television with Pedro Aganbi. When we come back from this quick break, we'll give you our tech personality of the week. Our tech personality of the week is Engineer Gbenga Adebayo. Watch this.
Engineer Gbenga Adebayo, for his bold and consistent advocacy on behalf of the Nigerian telecommunications sector, standing up for operators and actively engaging the relevant government and regulatory agencies when necessary. Altcan, under his leadership, has grown to embrace all key players and demonstrates that it is truly all for one.
The experience following the outbreak of COVID-19 and the total lockdown that we had across the world has gone to show that life and economy are so interdependent, and it is now what we call one world. The one world experience is that what happens in one part of the world also has ripple effect in other parts of the world. So one big lesson from COVID-19 is always to expect the unexpected. I think that it leaves the world to begin to take control of the consequences of effect of COVID-19. And in that regard, all players will have to do a lot more to make life meaningful after the experience of COVID-19. To some extent, I'll agree. The reason being that COVID-19 is novel. And being a novel virus, the world never prepared for this outbreak. The world never prepared for the implications and the impact of the outbreak. And so there is no way that when science couldn't see it ahead, there is no way that innovations will have seen it ahead. Because innovations often follow science. And so what it suggests is that innovation could not have been ahead of scientific development. So science couldn't find it. Consequent to that, there couldn't have been any innovation to find it. But now that the experience is here, the belief is that in the new normal, a lot of innovation will make life better and meaningful. What we have seen so far is that communication is the infrastructure of infrastructures. It is the infrastructure upon which many socio-economic services depend. And what we have now seen from COVID-19 and the experience following is that without telecom infrastructure, the economy of the world will have grounded to a halt. I think that the benefit of ICT cannot be overemphasized. It was indeed nice, good to look at the events of those years. I recall that NITE was the incumbent. NITE was in charge, so to say. NITE determined the direction of the industry. NITE determined everything for the sector. And it was a time when to make one international call, you have to take a queue, take a tally and be on a queue at the NITE exchange. Sometimes you can be on the queue over a period of 2-3 hours. And God help you when it's your turn to make a call. If your called party is not on seat or the connection suddenly go off, you have to go back to the end of the queue and restart again. And it was very difficult. Mobile phones were almost non-existent. Waiting time for telephone service at the time was almost 2 to 3 years, depending on where you were. And we had at that time a minister of government who even said categorically on national television, telecommunications telephone was not meant for the poor. But when we look at the transition over the last years, it is good to say that indeed we have transformed. And we must thank at this stage the government of the country. We must thank the previous administration of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, who regulated the sector. He had the political will to make it happen. And that was why we had the GSM auction, which was very successful, following which we had the food regulation and the privatization of the sector. And we are where we are today, where within our lifetime, when we have had to wait so many hours on the queue to make a call, today you can buy a loaf of bread for 100 naira and receive the SIM card free of charge. So that's what we now have. So it's good. I think the first thing is the political will. Government had the political will to make it happen. And also the participation of the private sector. It came to a point where government at the time realized that government had no business in business of telecommunications. And so when the sector was fully liberalized, it allowed many players to come in. It also allowed for innovation, it allowed for development, and it allowed for competition. And I think this in part are factors that has enabled the growth of the sector. Well, I think more of bad than good in terms of memory. NITE was highly monopolistic. They relied on government budget, and even in some cases they get extra budget to make things happen. But in spite of that, that agency could not provide more than 500,000 telephone lines, serving an inhabitant of over 50 million people at the time. And so monopoly NITE was all in all, like I said earlier. And for government for liberalization and regulation to actually succeed, it was important that government broke the monopoly of NITE. The success of breaking the monopoly of NITE gave birth in part to the rapid development of the sector. So when we look at the experience, our experience with NITE, even as private operators, when we started, NITE didn't want private operators. They did all that they could to stifle our development. And it was so bad that to interconnect with NITE, we have to pay for the trunks to interconnect with them. We have to pay them for calls originating from them and terminating on our network. We have to pay for calls originating from us and terminating on their network. And so bad that we had to build an exchange center at NATE facility, which was called the PTO room, private operators room at the time. We paid money as private operators to build the center. We bought our own equipment. We paid for NATE to connect us with the trunks. And what will interest you is that for us to access the building which we paid for, we need to seek clearance from NATE to access the building to do maintenance. It was as bad at the time. But thankfully, over the period, as groups like ours put a lot of pressure on NATE, a lot of pressure on government. And today, the entire sector is fully regulated. And these are actually interesting stories. We can say these were stories of yesteryears that give birth to the development that we have today. So, looking back in those days, one cannot but say a big thank you and a big well done to government for what they have done and for seeing the exit of NATE, unfortunately, because if NATE was still there today, I do not, if government didn't break the monopoly on NATE, I do not think that will allow the kind of development that we have had in this. Well, it shows that government was serious about regulating the sector, because prior to the GSM auction, there were actually licenses granted. There were licenses granted based on political consideration by government before that time. I think before the auction, there were 25 or so GSM licenses given to various private companies. These were basically friends of government, people with the right political will and all that. But there was no pressure to make anything happen. First, NATE was there as a monster that they all had to confront. The second is that the investment required, it was a bit difficult for some of the private operators to draw that massive investment from the international market. So the transparency of the auction that we had gave light to the fact that government was serious about regulating the sector, that government was going to be honest about the process, and it allowed for what I would call an entry of capital to develop the sector. It allowed for what I would call foreign direct investment into the sector. And these are things that gave us a good head start in the early days. And thankfully, years after, we are where we are. But I think it was important and for history that auction was as transparent as it was. Because no doubt we were not a country that people were willing to do business with at the time. We just came out of long years of military rule. Government had given licenses and they had cancelled licenses over newspaper, radio announcement and all that. And so international players didn't consider Nigeria as an investment destination as it were prior to that time. But with transparency we had from that auction, I think it changed the perception of the international community. And that gave back to what I would call the early foreign direct investment that we had in the sector. The success of that auction gave back to that. And we are where we are today. Well, multiple taxation is one, I would say. Multiple taxation at different levels of government. Issues of multiple regulation listed there. We have conflict of regulation from different agencies of government who tend to have oversight function on telecommunication services. Vandalization of infrastructure is still a point that we face. We have cases of willful and non-willful damage of infrastructure. That's still a major problem that we face. And pressure, social pressure on the operators, pressure of taxation, pressure of expectation by people in government who ordinarily should help the sector to grow. They take decisions and do things that will starve the sector. So I will say perception that people think that telecom sector is a big cow and everyone can take a part of it. So we have the perception issue. That's what I would call issue number 4. And most importantly is the issue of rapid changes in technology. The market today has become so competitive and technology changes by the night. So for the players, for the operators, we have to continue to raise, to live up to expectations, to raise to competition. So summarily, these are the 5 major issues that I would say we face. I wouldn't say the power supply problems have gone away because the challenges of our public power supply is still what it is. But in certain ways, we are living with it. So I would not say that is still a major issue in the front burner. But issue of privatization and taxation, issue of multiple regulation, multiple taxation, vandalization of our infrastructure, perception of the public about us, and rapid changing technology are key areas that I think we have challenges. That's one key word, and that's that telecommunication today is the infrastructure of infrastructures. It is on the infrastructure on which all other sectors of the economy, in certain ways or the other, depends upon. If you look at it from e-government, e-commerce, e-health, security, safety, travels, everything today seems to revolve around telecommunications. And I think this is one key factor that we need to continue to emphasize. Today, we are the most critical infrastructure to drive the economy. Experience I've shown during the recent COVID that without telecoms, the world would have been in total darkness. But telecom kept the world connected and kept the wheel of progress going. And telecom helped in no small measure in fighting the scourge, because without telecommunications, awareness would be a problem, information dissemination would be a problem, and the world will have just gone to a total shutdown. But thankfully, with the resilient cable service that we offer, with the dependence on the service by other sectors, and our ability to continue to support the economy, I think today we can say that we are the key infrastructure that the economy depends on. We must have classification of telecommunication as critical national security and economic infrastructure. We are thankful to the federal government for the pronouncement. We thank the Honorable Minister of Communication and Digital Economy for the good work that he is doing. We thank Mr. President for putting the issues of the telecommunications in the front corner. We thank our regulator, the NCC. And we thank also all the players in the sector. I think one key problem that we need to continue to confront head on is the issue of protection of telecommunications infrastructure. Having emphasized the critical nature of the service that we provide, having identified that we are the key infrastructure upon which the economy relies, it's very important that our infrastructure is protected. The issue of multiple taxation is something we need to address. Because of the pressure for internally generated revenue at the level of state and local government, we continue to face all kinds of taxes and levies. At some point, we counted up to about 49, 50 different levies and taxes on operators. And when we confront people in government, they continue to say to us that there is no multiple taxation, but our experience shows otherwise. So I think that is something that we need to address. And because there is no sector that is too big to fail. And I must remind all of us about the textile industry of those years. Textile industry was a sector that provided huge employment, provided huge foreign direct investment, but due to inadequacy of protection of government by way of policy, those sectors, that sector is no longer there today. And so our own big technology sector is even more sensitive, because without the right investment, without the right foreign direct investment, it will be difficult to grow the networks, it will be difficult to maintain what we have. So we think that government should consider telecommunications as one of those most important sectors. Provide us access to foreign exchange, protect the infrastructure that we have, protect those who work for telecom sector, assist us in confronting the issues of multiple taxation and multiple regulations at different levels. And I think with this, we'll have in the thriving and healthy sector. You may have heard things around, some controversy around 5G. 5G will be one of those features that the smart cities will enjoy. Smart city is just a neighborhood that is wired up, that is fully connected. Appliances, services are all interconnected and interrelated. And so there's nothing extraordinary about it. It's just the way to go. And we are hoping that once all the issues around controversies around 5G or no 5G is resolved, once the issue of national and citywide fiber backbones are fully resolved, once issues of right-of-way challenges that we've had which is now coming to the story of the past due to the cooperation of different governors of different states, for which we thank them. We thank also especially the chairman of the Governors Forum, His Excellency Gbenga Adebayo, for the drive to ensure that cooperating with our minister, the problem of right-of-way is eliminated. We have just heard in the last week that the Honorable Minister of Works has prepared a memo to government to suspend charging of right-of-way on Federal Highway for 2 years, which will help in terms of backbone infrastructure development. So once we have the national, countrywide backbone, citywide backbone, cities can be made smarter, cities can be better connected, devices and appliances can be better connected. And so smart city is not rocket science. We are almost there. We just need to have the right policy, we need to have the right incentive, we need to have the right initiative, and we'll get there. I think we should start having some neighborhoods as smart cities. In the next 1 year thereabout, we should begin to say that certain neighborhoods are fully wired up, they are fully connected.
Wow, that was Engineer Gbenga Adebayo, President of the Association of Licensed Telecom Operators of Nigeria, who happens to be our tech personality of the week. All right, we hope you found this edition quite informative and educative. For comments and observation, please reach us on the numbers and emails now showing on your screen. You can also watch this on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production crew, thanks for watching. Same time, same station. I'll be back next time. I'll see you.